In a surprise announcement on Friday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said the government would repeal three controversial agriculture laws after 358 days of non-stop protests by farmer groups, mainly from Punjab, Haryana and Western Uttar Pradesh. The decision came on the occasion of Gurpurab and a few months ahead of the assembly elections in Uttar Pradesh and Punjab, the hotbed of the agitation. The bills were passed in September last year in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha by voice vote, and farmers have alleged ever since that the laws were made to help big businesses. Since then, the government's 11 rounds of discussion with farmer leaders did not yield any meaningful results. So, what are these three contentious laws that triggered India's longest ever farm protests? The Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce Promotion and Facilitation Act gave an additional option for farmers and traders to sell and buy outside the designated mandis. States and commission agents feared loss of revenue if farm trade moved out of mandis, whereas farmers feared this might have eventually led to the end of the MSP-based procurement system. The Farmers Empowerment and Protection Agreement on Price Assurance and Farm Services Act provided a framework for contract farming. Farmer organizations said the law was framed to suit big corporations and would weaken the negotiating power of farmers. The Essential Commodities Amendment Act removed stockholding limits on certain agri-commodities, except during extraordinary situations. The opposition said the amendment would have benefited the holders, letting them dictate the terms, while at the same time hurting farmers and consumers. Now that we understand the basic outline of the laws, let's delve into the implications of their repeal. While the protesting farmers might celebrate, a section of experts views this development as a setback for the farm sector.
So these reforms were not to reach the global market where the farmers could get better access to technology and also remunerative prices of the global level. The second setback will be on investment in agriculture. You know that agriculture needs huge investment, especially in the back-end land labeling, irrigation, especially the surface irrigation, and in the front end, especially the post-harvest, need investment for developing markets, agro-processing, storage, cold storage, logistics. So we need a huge investment in agriculture. Public sector cannot make such a big investment. Private sector was to enter for such an investment, and the withdrawing these laws will adversely affect the investment in agriculture. The government has already created an agri infrastructure fund of 10 lakhs crores of rupees. I think it will have implications on this, that it will not be used as government was expecting. And third major setback will be to the foreign direct investment. Foreign direct investment, especially for agro processing sector, and also export, including the contract farming, delivery mechanisms, creating new kinds of markets. So these are the setbacks to the agriculture sector overall.
Despite the general consensus that the agriculture sector is sorely in need of reforms, not all experts are of the view that the three farm acts would have been the right solution.
Central Act on contract farming somewhere permits or legalizes land leasing, which I believe can never be part of contract farming arrangement, because in contract farming, farmer is the producing entity, the sponsor of the contracting agency or the corporate cannot cultivate farmers' land under contract farming. But this has been done under this, and one state government, which was trying to amend its Central Act in order to protest against it, ended up writing in its amended act bill that if the company employs its labor force on farmers' field under contract, then it should withdraw the labor before the end of the contract duration or period. So I thought that was one big violation of the state level acts on land leasing, which most states have in place along with the Land Ceilings Act. The other is the Farmer Produce Trade and Commerce Act, which is you can call it APMC Mandi Bypass Act. So here also one of the provisions like requirement only of a PAN card for any buyer to go and buy farmer produce, I thought was too much of relaxation. because this didn't have any counterparty risk guarantee, which APMC system has. So by default, here we ended up creating two markets in one place in each area instead of trying to integrate markets. And the fear was that if one market has very unequal playing field, that there are no buying charges in the new trade area, then we may end up diminishing the importance of APMCs or killing them altogether. So there are a lot of design flaws which were creating a lot of trouble, other than the fact that there was this federal issue as well, that the central government should not have acted on issues or subjects which are in the domain of state governments.
This also might not be the death knell for agricultural reforms that certain sections believe it to be. After the repeal of the Agriculture Acts, government officials told Business Standard that the focus would now shift to convincing the states to adopt the model APMC laws, which were promulgated some years back.
So basically, my contention is that it should be left to the states, and states over time, in fact, have been doing reforms. So it may be gradual. So the central level intervention may not be necessary in the agriculture marketing. So that's my view.
However, this doesn't mean that the center is off the hook as far as the protesting farmers are concerned. On Friday, Bharatiya Kisan Union leader Rakesh Tikait said that the protests would be withdrawn only after the three contentious legislations were repealed in Parliament and legal guarantee on minimum support price or MSP for crops made. The demand for MSP as a legal right could pose a huge challenge for the government.
And my fear is that because the first step of using political consensus to bring about reforms was not taken, we are in this rather messy situation of dealing with a demand that is even more problematic. Given the fact that the state or the central exchequer is constrained financially, given the fact that agriculture, after all, is a state subject, and agriculture needs more investments rather than a kind of price guarantee for a small segment of farmers who come to the markets. Remember, over 85 to 90% of Indian farmers don't come to the markets to sell their produce. So an MSP is an instrument that benefits a very small segment of farmers, but a very, very powerful vocal segment of farmers. So the real tragedy would be if the first step that was wrong, in the sense that reforms were introduced without political consensus, and if that leads to a government that is struggling with meeting with another demand, which is financially more challenging, that would be a bigger problem going forward, and a big challenge for the central finances.
Whatever your opinion might be about the farm laws, one thing is undeniable. For now, the central government has lost the narrative on deep structural reforms. And time alone will tell whether the states will take over and bring in the much needed changes to the farm sector.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.